You dream of someone you hadn't thought about in years. A song stirs a memory you can't explain, or you act before you even realize you've decided. What if none of these moments were accidents, just glimpses of a hidden mind steering you from below? Welcome to NeuroNap Academy. Tonight we'll explore 101 mysteries about the subconscious mind science can't explain. And the first truth is this: your subconscious makes choices before you do, pulling the strings while your awareness simply catches up. You begin every day believing you are in control. You think about what to eat, when to leave, which words to choose in conversation. But beneath that sense of agency lies another layer, a silent puppeteer shaping decisions before they ever appear in your conscious mind. And here is our first mystery. Experiments reveal that your subconscious makes the decision before you do. Neuroscientists place electrodes on the scalp and find a faint readiness potential, an electrical buildup in the brain, appearing several hundred milliseconds before you report deciding to move your hand. The command begins invisibly. The feeling of choice arrives afterward. It is as though your subconscious writes the line, then passes the script to you, allowing you to believe you authored it. Scientists can measure the signal, but they cannot yet explain why awareness lags behind action. Another fact hidden in plain sight emerges from split brain research. In rare patients whose two hemispheres no longer communicate, one half of the brain takes an action, and the other invents a reason. If the right hemisphere directs the body to stand, the left hemisphere responsible for language creates an explanation. I wanted to get a drink. But the truth is simpler. It didn't know why. This second mystery shows that your conscious self is not always the initiator of action, but often the narrator of events already set in motion. Science can describe the phenomenon, yet no one fully understands how two halves of a mind can live side by side, each convinced it tells the truth. Imagine the unease this creates. You think you decide at the crossroads, yet your brain leans toward a path before the thought surfaces. That sense of freedom may be less about making choices from scratch, and more about receiving whispers from a deeper self. The conscious mind resembles a commentator on a game already in progress, telling the story as it unfolds. And this leads us to a third fact. The subconscious can even shape what you see. Consider the realm of optical illusions. Two identical lines placed in different contexts appear unequal. Even once you know the trick, you cannot force your conscious mind to see them as the same length. The subconscious has already interpreted the image, and that interpretation is stronger than awareness. This mystery reveals something profound. Perception itself is filtered. The world you experience is not pure reality, but a construction, your subconscious version of the truth. Yet the unsolved riddle remains. Why does the brain insist on preserving the illusion, even against conscious correction? And this raises a fourth hidden fact. Unconscious bias is always at work. In laboratory tests, people who sincerely believe they are neutral react with faster associations that reveal hidden leanings. Whether judging a face, a product, or a candidate, your subconscious delivers a verdict long before you consciously weigh the evidence. You think you choose, but unseen scripts guide your hand. This is not a matter of blame. It is the echo of culture, memory, and survival patterns stored beyond awareness. But the deeper mystery is why some biases can be unlearned, while others seem to resist every effort to change. The fifth and final secret in this opening cluster ties them together. The subconscious does not act to deceive, but to protect and simplify. Without it, every gesture, every breath, every small choice would require endless calculation. It relieves the conscious mind of impossible burdens, but efficiency comes at a price. The strings it pulls are hidden, and you rarely notice the weight of their influence. And here, science reaches another limit. We know the subconscious ensures survival, but not why it sometimes preserves patterns that no longer serve us. Pause for a moment and reflect. If the subconscious initiates before you know, if it justifies actions without explanation, if it alters perception itself, and if it biases you before logic speaks, what then is left for the conscious mind? Perhaps freedom does not mean absolute authorship, but the ability to become aware of the script, to notice when the hidden puppeteer is helpful, and when its strings pull you away from who you wish to be. And here is the paradox that turns mystery into hope. If the subconscious can influence decisions and perceptions without your consent, perhaps it can also prepare creativity, insight, and strength without your awareness. Just as it lights the path before you walk it, it may already be arranging the solutions you will one day discover. This thought opens the door to the next set of secrets, those hidden in memory. Because every whisper of the subconscious is built upon what it has stored, and memory too has mysteries waiting to be unveiled. Beneath your daily awareness lies a library without walls, where every experience you have ever lived is stored, whether you remember it or not. You might think that forgetting means erasing, but in truth, the subconscious holds far more than your conscious memory could ever carry. And here we encounter our next mystery. Experiences you believe lost are often quietly preserved, shaping emotions and choices in ways you cannot trace. A faint smell of perfume might stir unease without explanation, or a song from childhood may bring sudden comfort. Science can show us that the traces exist, but not why some memories lie dormant for decades only to resurface at the smallest trigger. This takes us to another unsettling revelation. Not all memories are genuine. The subconscious can distort, invent, or merge fragments into false recollections that feel absolutely real. Psychologists have shown that simple suggestion can implant details into memory, and once implanted, the subconscious defends them as truth. Imagine remembering with vivid clarity being lost in a crowded mall as a child, only to discover it never happened. The sensation remains, the fear remains, but the event is fiction. Researchers understand how suggestion alters memory, yet the deeper mystery remains. Why does the brain cling so fiercely to falsehoods once they are created, protecting them as if they were precious truths? Then comes the eerie sensation of déjà vu, one of the most haunting signals of subconscious memory. You step into a place or meet a stranger and feel you have lived this exact moment before. Science explains it as a misfiring of pattern recognition, your subconscious matching fragments from past experiences against the present. Yet, no one has fully explained why the sensation feels so uncannily real, why the emotion of familiarity is so overwhelming, even when logic says it cannot be. This is our third fact here. Déjà vu is the subconscious whispering you know this, while your conscious mind searches in vain for the file that does not exist. Memory is also inseparable from emotion, and here lies our next hidden truth. The subconscious tags each memory with an invisible weight. Neutral moments fade, but emotionally charged events cling tightly. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped region deep in your brain, silently marks memories with feeling, ensuring that joy and fear remain long after details are lost. This explains why you may recall exactly where you were during moments of shock, but not the countless days before. Scientists can measure the neural activity that makes emotional memories stronger, but they cannot yet explain why some events brand themselves forever, while others of equal intensity dissolve into shadows. And then there is childhood, the deepest vault of all. Our fifth fact in this chapter is that early experiences are written into subconscious scripts that guide you for a lifetime. A child nurtured in safety carries an invisible template of trust. One raised amid chaos may grow with silent vigilance. These early codes remain even when the events themselves are forgotten. Developmental psychology can describe how the mind absorbs patterns, but no one can fully explain why certain childhood imprints echo so loudly decades later, while others fade almost completely. These 5 mysteries of memory reveal a paradox. The subconscious remembers more than you can bear, but it also invents what never happened. It delivers a haunting sense of familiarity without reason, binds emotion to memory in ways logic cannot undo, and writes early scripts that shape adulthood in silence. Science observes these processes, tracks the neural signals, even manipulates them in experiments. Yet the deepest questions remain unanswered. Why does memory sometimes protect and sometimes betray? Why do false recollections feel as solid as truth? And why does a fragment of childhood continue to whisper across a lifetime? Memory, then, is not a simple archive. It is a living, breathing editor, sculpting the story of who you are with tools both visible and hidden. And as you begin to sense this, another question rises. If memory operates in such mysterious ways, what happens when the subconscious is free from waking rules altogether? What happens when it speaks through the landscapes of dreams, where logic bends and time dissolves? To answer this, we must walk into the night, where the subconscious becomes not just a library, but a storyteller, writing in symbols that science still struggles to interpret. When night falls and your conscious mind releases its grip, the subconscious begins to speak more freely. It does not use direct language, but images, sensations, and stories that bend the rules of waking life. Many dismiss dreams as noise, yet they reveal far more than random fragments. Our next mystery is that dreams integrate traces of daily life in ways you never plan. Psychologists call this the day residue effect. A brief glance at a stranger, a passing thought, or a half-heard sentence may return woven into an elaborate dream. Science can describe the mechanism, but the deeper puzzle remains. Why does the subconscious select some trivial fragments and not others? Why does a single fleeting moment insist on reappearing, while others are left behind? As sleep deepens, the subconscious takes on another vital role. During REM sleep, the brain rehearses and strengthens memory. Neurons replay the patterns of the day, embedding them more firmly, linking them with older networks. Here lies another fact. Your subconscious is hard at work while you sleep, consolidating learning and preparing for tomorrow. Yet here too lies mystery. Researchers can map the activity, but they cannot fully explain why some lessons are cemented overnight, while others dissolve despite equal practice. Why does a poem remain vivid after dreaming, but a complex formula vanish by morning? Not all dreams bring comfort. Sometimes the subconscious raises alarms in the form of nightmares. This third revelation shows that dreams can function as emotional simulations, rehearsing fear and danger. Soldiers often report ambush scenarios before combat. Children dream of falling or being chased long before such dangers exist. The subconscious, it seems, uses dreams as a rehearsal ground for survival, but science cannot yet explain why some people replay the same nightmare endlessly, while others rarely dream of fear at all. The function is partially known, the mechanism remains hidden. There is another secret hidden in dreams, the power of problem solving. Countless innovations have surfaced in dream states. The chemist Kekule dreamed of a snake biting its tail, revealing the circular structure of benzene. Musicians awaken with melodies composed in sleep. Students sometimes solve equations overnight. This is our fourth fact. The subconscious, released from logic, forms unexpected connections, and yet the mystery endures. Why does this creative leap happen only occasionally? Why can one dream carry genius, while hundreds of others dissolve into nonsense? Science can measure brain waves, but it cannot summon inspiration on command. And finally, among the most extraordinary dream phenomena is lucid dreaming. In rare moments, the conscious mind awakens inside the dream, realizing the unreality while still immersed in it. The dreamer may fly, converse with imagined figures, or reshape the landscape with will alone. This is our fifth revelation here. The border between conscious and subconscious is not fixed but can sometimes be crossed, yet the mystery remains. Why do some people slip into lucidity often, while others never experience it at all? What gates does the subconscious open for some and close for others? Science studies induction techniques, but the unpredictable nature of lucidity resists full explanation. In these 5 secrets of dreams, the subconscious emerges as both artist and guardian. It stitches the fragments of your day into surreal mosaics, preserves or erases memory in ways no one fully understands, rehearses danger to prepare you, offers solutions through creativity, and sometimes invites you into its theater with full awareness. Yet every one of these processes is lined with unanswered questions. We can describe the patterns, but not why they select, not why they repeat, not why they create with such brilliance one night and silence the next. And so the dream world reminds us that the subconscious is not simply mechanical, it is imaginative, symbolic, protective, sometimes cruel, sometimes generous. And if dreams can hold so many mysteries unsolved, imagine how many more hide in your waking hours, those moments when you move, speak, and act without thought, guided by invisible scripts. For to understand the next layer of the subconscious, we must turn to the autopilot of daily life, where hidden processes control far more than we realize. You walk through life with a remarkable illusion that you are consciously steering every step, every gesture, every word, but beneath that surface awareness lies a machinery running silently, allowing you to function without constant effort. The subconscious is not only a vault of memories and a theater of dreams, it is also the silent pilot of your daily existence. And here we meet our next mystery. Most of what you do each day is handled outside of conscious awareness. Psychologists estimate that well over 90% of your behaviors are guided by subconscious processes. You breathe, you blink, you shift posture, and even in conversation you often reply automatically, drawing from patterns stored long ago. Science can measure the scale of unconscious influence, yet it cannot fully explain how such vast coordination happens seamlessly without your awareness being overwhelmed. This hidden guidance becomes obvious when you consider tasks like walking, driving, or typing. At first they require focus, but with repetition they slip into autopilot. Here lies another fact. Once a skill is encoded, your subconscious can perform it without conscious attention. You can drive for miles, lost in thought, and suddenly realize you have no memory of the journey, or you may type an entire sentence while your mind wanders elsewhere. The subconscious has taken the wheel. But the unresolved riddle is this: where does awareness go during these gaps? Neuroscience can show which brain regions remain active, yet no one knows why consciousness seems to switch off while action continues flawlessly. This autopilot is orchestrated in part by a small but powerful region called the basal ganglia. It creates loops of habit, chaining cues, actions, and rewards into automatic patterns. This is our third secret in this chapter. Habits are not driven by conscious effort once formed, but by subconscious cycles repeating beneath awareness. You put on your shoes in the same order, check your phone without deciding, reach for snacks without hunger. Scientists can track the circuits that light up during habits, but they cannot explain why some patterns entrench deeply and resist every attempt at change, while others vanish after a few weeks. The persistence of habit remains one of the subconscious's most enduring mysteries. Another clue to the power of this hidden pilot lies in reaction time. Your subconscious can respond faster than you could ever think. A ball flying toward your face makes you flinch before you even recognize what it is. A sudden noise pulls your muscles taut before the conscious mind registers danger. This is our fourth revelation here. The subconscious acts first, then informs awareness. But the unanswered question lingers: how does the brain prioritize which signals deserve this lightning-fast treatment, and why does it sometimes misfire, making you jump at harmless shadows or miss real threats? Science can describe the reflex arc, but it cannot map the full logic of the subconscious sentinel. And finally, repetition reveals another of the subconscious's secrets. With each repeated action, the pathways in your brain grow stronger, until behavior becomes second nature. This is our fifth fact in this sequence. Practice does not just improve skill, it rewires the subconscious. Yet here too lies a mystery. Some people master new habits with ease while others struggle endlessly. The biology of neuroplasticity is known, but not the reason for such stark individual differences. Why does one person form routines quickly while another resists change, even with the same effort? The subconscious answers only with silence. These 5 mysteries of daily autopilot show us that life is far less consciously directed than it appears. The subconscious manages breath and motion, builds habits, reacts to threats, and quietly shapes the routines of your days. You may believe you are the sole captain of your life, yet much of the ship sails without your orders. Science maps the processes, but leaves questions unanswered: why some habits resist, why awareness fades, why automatic skills feel effortless while conscious learning feels heavy. And this realization opens another door. If the subconscious guides the body so faithfully, perhaps it also stores the body's deepest memories, memories written not in words, but in muscle, in scars, in the silent echo of trauma and comfort. To uncover the next mysteries, we must listen not to thought or dream, but to the body itself, where the subconscious keeps a record older and more intimate than conscious memory could ever reach. If the subconscious guides your daily actions, it also leaves its imprint deeper still in the body itself. Long before you are aware, the body carries memories, skills, and scars that cannot always be translated into words. And here is our next mystery. What you call muscle memory is not in the muscles at all, but in neural circuits. Once you have practiced a movement, from playing a piano scale to riding a bicycle, the subconscious encodes the sequence so thoroughly that it flows without thought. You might not recall the conscious effort of early practice, yet your fingers or feet move with precision years later. Science understands the pathways, but the enigma remains. Why do some physical skills remain preserved for life, while others fade quickly when unused? This leads us to another unsettling fact. Trauma can be stored somatically, living in the body long after the conscious mind forgets. Survivors of early abuse, for example, may carry chronic tension, flinching at triggers they cannot name. Their subconscious holds the memory, inscribed in posture, in heartbeat, in breath. Therapists describe how releasing physical tension sometimes uncovers emotions buried for decades. Yet the mystery is unsolved. How does the body remember what the conscious brain cannot? Neuroscience seeks the exact mechanism, but the silence of the subconscious body resists simple explanation. A third revelation lies in the haunting power of flashbacks. In post-traumatic stress disorder, a neutral sound or sight can suddenly pull a person back into terror, as if the past were happening again. The subconscious, not the conscious, triggers the cascade. heart racing, muscles tightening, vision narrowing. The person knows they are safe, yet their body does not believe it. Science can describe the amygdala's hyperactivation, but not why certain memories remain locked in this loop while others fade. Why does one soldier dream in peace while another relives the battlefield each night? This is a question still unanswered. Emotional memories themselves are stored with unusual strength. Here is our fourth secret. Events tied to powerful feelings, love, loss, fear, are etched far more deeply than neutral experiences. You may forget thousands of meals, but not the one shared on the day your life changed. Researchers know that adrenaline enhances memory consolidation, but they cannot explain why some moments slip away despite equal intensity. The subconscious is selective, but its criteria remain hidden. Finally, consider phobias. Many people recoil at spiders, heights, or darkness without ever experiencing harm from them. This fifth fact reveals another mystery. The subconscious can condition fear without direct cause. It may be inherited, shaped by culture, or triggered by subtle childhood cues. Science can show the fear response, but it cannot yet determine why the subconscious chooses these specific fears. Why do some individuals live unbothered while others tremble at the sight of a harmless creature? Together, these 5 mysteries show that the subconscious not only manages action, but also writes its history into the body. Skills endure when the conscious mind has long since forgotten. Trauma lodges in muscle and breath. Flashbacks reanimate the past with cruel precision. Emotion strengthens memory beyond logic, while fear attaches itself to symbols without clear reason. The body remembers, but it does not always explain, and in this silence lies both suffering and survival, the subconscious protecting you, warning you, or sometimes trapping you in echoes of the past. Science can trace the outlines of these processes, but the deeper questions remain open. Why some skills last forever, why some scars refuse to fade, why the body sometimes insists on carrying what the mind would rather release. And so, as the body keeps its secrets, another hidden realm comes into view. The emotions that steer behavior invisibly, shaping choices and reactions, even when you believe yourself calm. To uncover the next layer, we must follow the whispers of invisible feelings, the emotions that hide below thought, yet move you more than reason ever could. Emotions move silently beneath the surface of your awareness. You may believe you know what you feel, yet much of your inner life is guided by currents you cannot see. And here is our next mystery. The face often reveals feelings before the mind admits them. Microexpressions. Fleeting twitches of muscle lasting less than half a second betray anger, fear, or joy, even when someone tries to hide it. The subconscious both produces and reads these signals faster than conscious thought. Scientists can film and measure them, yet the unresolved puzzle remains. Why does the brain reveal what the person desperately wants to conceal? Why must the subconscious leak truths that the conscious self guards? Another hidden fact comes from the emotions you repress. Anger, sadness, or longing, when pushed out of awareness, do not vanish. They retreat into the subconscious, shaping tone of voice, gesture, and choice without being named. Therapists encounter patients who deny feeling rage while their bodies clench and their words cut sharp. The mystery is clear. Science knows repressed emotions manifest somatically, but not why some individuals bury feelings deeper than others. Why does one person confront grief openly, while another carries it silently for decades? Then there is jealousy, perhaps the most insidious of hidden emotions. You may smile politely while a friend succeeds, yet somewhere beneath, a current of envy shifts your perception. This third revelation is that jealousy often operates below awareness, altering relationships in ways neither person can explain. Subconscious cues of tone or posture reveal it long before conscious acknowledgement. Researchers can observe the effects, but they cannot fully explain why jealousy is triggered so powerfully by small comparisons, or why it clings long after reason suggests it should fade. Another layer of invisible emotion lies in the gut. Many describe gut feelings as intuition, but biology shows that the enteric nervous system, the network of neurons in your digestive tract, communicates directly with the brain, influencing emotion. Here is our fourth secret. Your body sometimes feels before your mind thinks, yet the science remains incomplete. Why does one meal of comfort food calm anxiety while another does nothing? Why do some gut sensations prove accurate while others mislead? The subconscious sends signals, but their reliability remains an unresolved question. Finally, consider the stress response. Long before you register worry, Your subconscious triggers the cascade, adrenaline rising, heart accelerating, muscles bracing. You might insist you are calm, yet your body prepares for battle. This fifth fact shows that stress is often subconscious before it becomes conscious, but science cannot yet explain why the response sometimes escalates uncontrollably, leading to anxiety disorders, or why in others it seems muted. Even in crisis, the same system designed to protect can sometimes overreact or underreact, and the mystery of this variation remains unsolved. These 5 secrets of invisible emotion remind us that feelings are not under the command of thought. They move first in the subconscious, shaping perception, guiding choices, even betraying themselves through the smallest gestures. Science reveals glimpses of the machinery, microexpressions, repressed memories, jealous signals, gut-brain communication, stress reflexes, but always leaves questions at the edges. Why do some truths surface and others stay buried? Why do certain emotions transform into action, while others remain silent currents? The subconscious is not just a storage of memory or a pilot of action. It is an ocean of emotion flowing beneath the surface, and if these hidden tides can shape so much of life, then the question becomes what happens when external cues, words, images, sounds begin to steer the subconscious itself. For that is the next chapter, the strange power of priming, where subtle signals guide thoughts and behaviors in ways science has only begun to uncover. Your thoughts often feel original, born fresh in the moment, yet the subconscious can be guided by subtle cues long before you know what you are about to think. This phenomenon is known as priming, and it reveals how suggestible the hidden mind can be. Here lies our next mystery. When you are shown certain words or images, your subconscious prepares you to act in ways you would never notice. A person who reads words related to age may unconsciously walk more slowly afterward. Another who glimpses the word kindness might act more generously in the minutes that follow. Science confirms these effects, yet the unresolved puzzle remains. Why does the same prime influence one person and leave another untouched? The subconscious responds, but not predictably. Consider the power of language itself. This second fact shows how single words can shift behavior. When people are subtly exposed to terms like achievement, they may perform better on tasks. When primed with words like failure, their performance declines. The subconscious absorbs the message without conscious attention, but here again lies a mystery. Researchers can replicate the effect in some studies and fail in others. No one fully understands why the subconscious sometimes seizes on these cues with force and at other times ignores them entirely. Color, too, exerts influence below awareness. Here is our third revelation. Certain shades change mood and behavior subconsciously. Red may increase alertness and even aggression, while blue can calm and steady. Marketers use these principles constantly, surrounding you with signals that you do not consciously interpret but still absorb. Yet science cannot fully explain why cultural context alters the response. Why does red inspire passion in one culture, but fear in another? The universal biology of color perception is known, but the subconscious meaning attached to it remains partly unsolved. Sound carries its own hidden weight. Music, even when played softly in the background, can shape what you choose, how fast you eat, how long you linger in a store. This fourth secret shows the subconscious attunement to rhythm and tone. Classical music might lead shoppers to buy more expensive wine. Upbeat tempos may quicken walking pace. Researchers document the outcomes, yet the core enigma persists. Why do certain individuals resist the prime while others are swayed entirely? The subconscious reacts, but the reasons for its selectivity remain unclear. Anchoring offers yet another glimpse into hidden influence. When presented with a number, even an arbitrary one, your subconscious uses it as a reference point for later decisions. Shown a high figure, you may estimate costs or probabilities as higher than reality. Shown a low one, you may underestimate. This is our fifth fact. The subconscious latches onto anchors without reason. Science has demonstrated the bias repeatedly, but the unanswered question is why the mind clings so firmly to irrelevant numbers, even when you know they should not matter. Finally, consider advertising. Marketers design every detail of an image, slogan, or sound to bypass conscious scrutiny and land in the subconscious. This sixth fact is that hidden hooks can change what you want without you realizing it. Familiar jingles resurface unbidden, colors make products seem fresher, placement influences preference, but here lies perhaps the greatest mystery. If we know these tricks, why do they still work? Why does awareness not shield us completely? The subconscious seems to accept the message anyway, as if its doors remain open even when the conscious mind stands guard. These 6 secrets of priming and influence remind us that the subconscious is not an isolated vault but a porous system, constantly receiving impressions from the world. Words, colors, sounds, numbers, and symbols slip past awareness and bend perception. Science has mapped many effects, yet each carries questions unresolved: why some primes work inconsistently, why culture shifts meaning, why awareness does not always defend. And this raises another question. If the subconscious can be steered so easily by outside signals, what about the signals it reads in other people? The face of a stranger, the flicker of an expression, the unspoken gesture, these too are processed below awareness, shaping how safe or unsafe someone feels. To explore this, we must step into the crowd and discover how the subconscious sees faces and feelings long before the conscious mind catches up. In a crowded street, you cannot consciously take in every detail. Hundreds of faces pass you in seconds, yet somehow your mind sorts them, detects familiar ones, and even senses danger without deliberate thought. And here is our next mystery. Your subconscious can scan and register thousands of faces with astonishing speed, far beyond conscious capacity. You may not notice the process, but you can still recognize a person glimpsed years ago for just an instant. Science has measured this ability, yet the puzzle remains. How does the brain decide which faces to keep and which to discard? The selectivity of this silent catalogue is still unexplained. Deeper still lies the role of the fusiform face area, a small region in the temporal lobe dedicated to face recognition. This brings us to another hidden fact. The subconscious activates this region before you consciously realize you are looking at a face. The response is automatic and nearly instantaneous. Researchers can track the neural signal, but the mystery lingers. Why do some faces feel unforgettable, while others dissolve immediately into the blur of memory? The mechanism fires reliably, yet its choices remain opaque. Now consider expressions of fear or anger. Even when flashed for a fraction of a second, the subconscious reacts, your heartbeat quickens, your body tenses. This third revelation shows that your mind detects potential threat in faces before you can think. Evolution explains part of it, but not the whole. Why does one person interpret the same fleeting glance as dangerous while another perceives nothing at all? Science has yet to uncover why threat detection varies so widely across individuals, leaving this survival signal partly unsolved. Another layer appears in the way the subconscious decides familiarity. Sometimes you sense you know someone long before you recall where. This is our fourth fact. Subconscious recognition precedes conscious recall. You may trust a stranger instantly or feel uneasy without knowing why, guided by patterns hidden beneath awareness. Researchers can demonstrate the effect, but they cannot explain why the subconscious sometimes identifies familiarity correctly and other times creates false alarms. What is the hidden rulebook that governs this instinctive sense of I know you? And finally, mirror neurons offer a glimpse into how deeply faces shape us. These neurons fire not only when you perform an action, but also when you watch another person do it. This fifth secret shows that your subconscious resonates with the expressions of others, syncing mood and behavior unconsciously. A smile can lift you, a frown can weigh you down, even if you never intend to imitate. Yet the mystery endures. Why does empathy flow so effortlessly in some situations and remain absent in others? Why does the subconscious sometimes mirror and sometimes refuse? These 5 mysteries of faces reveal how much the subconscious sees before you know it. It catalogues, reacts, senses, and imitates at speeds awareness cannot match. Science traces the circuits, measures the milliseconds, and describes the effects. But the why, the deep logic of which faces stay, which feelings trigger, which bonds form remains unanswered. And if faces carry such hidden influence, imagine what happens with signals even smaller than expressions, words or images flashed too briefly to notice, messages buried beneath sound, or shapes hidden in patterns. For the subconscious, even the invisible can leave a mark. And to uncover this, we must step into the enigmatic territory of subliminal traces. There are signals so faint that you do not notice them at all, yet your subconscious does. A flash of light too quick for conscious recognition, a word hidden beneath music, an image tucked at the edge of vision. And here is our next mystery. Subliminal images can shape preference without awareness. In experiments, people shown a brand logo for milliseconds later choose it more often, despite insisting they never saw it. Science confirms the effect, but the puzzle endures. Why does the subconscious register what the conscious mind entirely misses? And why does it sometimes influence behavior strongly, yet at other times seem to vanish without impact? Words too can slip past awareness. This second fact reveals that even masked or backward words are processed unconsciously. Brain scans show subtle activations when people are exposed to them, even though they cannot report seeing or hearing anything. The subconscious reads in silence, yet the unresolved question remains: how deep does this processing go? Does it stop at associations, or can the subconscious truly interpret complex meaning without consciousness? Researchers still debate the limits, and the answer remains elusive. The third revelation comes from hidden commands embedded in media experiments. In some studies, subliminal cues nudged people to drink more, to choose one option over another, to alter mood without knowing why. This suggests the subconscious is listening at all times, taking in far more than awareness admits. But the mystery is undeniable. Why are such effects inconsistent? Sometimes subliminal influence is strong, sometimes non-existent. Science has not yet explained why the same method sways one mind and leaves another untouched. Another secret lies in the very limits of persuasion. Subliminal advertising, once feared as a powerful tool, has proven weaker than expected. Here is our fourth fact. The subconscious can be touched but not controlled. People may shift slightly in preference, but deep attitudes and decisions resist. And here is the puzzle. Why does the subconscious guard certain choices more strongly? Why can a fleeting image alter a snack choice but not a core belief? The line between influence and resistance remains a mystery. Finally, consider the brain scans that reveal subconscious reading. When subjects are shown stimuli too fast to recognize, areas of the visual cortex and language regions still activate. This fifth fact demonstrates that your mind works even in the absence of awareness, yet the riddle lingers. Why does the subconscious engage in such hidden effort? And what purpose does it serve if the conscious mind never notices? The processing seems both essential and mysterious, as if the brain refuses to let go of any possible signal, no matter how faint. These 5 mysteries of subliminal traces remind us that perception is wider than awareness. Your eyes, ears, and brain take in more than you ever realize. Science can detect the echoes of these signals, track the neural responses, and demonstrate subtle influence, but it cannot answer why the effects vary, why some cues last and others fade, or why the subconscious works so tirelessly on what you never consciously see. And if signals you cannot detect still shape you, then imagine what happens with rhythms inside you that never stop, rhythms that tell you when to sleep, when to wake, when to feel energized or weary. For the subconscious is also the keeper of time itself, running clocks beneath awareness that govern the tempo of your life. Even when you close your eyes to the world, a clock continues to tick within you. It is not the time told by watches or calendars, but a deeper rhythm written into every cell. This hidden chronometer is guided by the subconscious, orchestrating energy, mood, and alertness without asking your permission. And here is our next mystery. Circadian rhythms continue even when you are cut off from external cues. Experiments with people living underground show that the body maintains an internal day-night cycle, drifting but persisting. Science knows the psychosomatic nucleus in the brain drives this rhythm, yet the riddle remains: why do different bodies keep slightly different times? Why does one person's clock run long, while another's runs short? This leads us to another fascinating fact. When you cross time zones, your subconscious clock falls out of sync with the environment, producing jet lag. Your body insists it is night, while the world insists it is day. The subconscious resists sudden shifts, clinging to its internal rhythm. But here lies the mystery. Why do some people adjust in days while others suffer for weeks? Researchers track hormone cycles and neural patterns, but they cannot explain why resilience to disruption varies so greatly. A third secret appears in the way hormones are released with exquisite timing. Cortisol rises in the morning to wake you. Melatonin rises at night to help you rest. Growth hormone surges during sleep. This orchestration happens beneath awareness, the subconscious acting as conductor. Yet the unanswered puzzle remains. Why does the rhythm sometimes break, as in insomnia or seasonal depression? Science describes the hormones, but the underlying cause of their imbalance often eludes explanation. Another mystery lies in the pressure to sleep itself. Even if you resist, a force builds silently in your brain, making rest inevitable. This fourth fact is called sleep pressure, governed by adenosine accumulation. You feel drowsy not because you decide to, but because the subconscious signals insist. But science cannot fully explain why some people can override sleep pressure longer than others, or why a nap sometimes restores clarity while at other times it barely helps. The mechanics are partly known, the deeper rules are not. And finally, consider seasonal rhythms. Our fifth revelation here is that mood and energy often change with the length of days, rising in summer, dipping in winter. The subconscious responds to light levels even when you try to resist. Yet the mystery endures. Why does seasonal change trigger depression in some, while others feel unaffected? The biology of light perception is shared, but the experience is not. Science measures melatonin shifts, but cannot answer why the subconscious translates the same signal into despair for one person and vitality for another. These 5 mysteries of the subconscious body clock remind us that time is not just an external measure, but an internal force. Your rhythms run on their own, aligning or clashing with the world around you. Science can map the cycles, name the hormones, and predict patterns. But it still cannot explain why some clocks run differently, why disruption hurts one person more than another, or why light and dark shape mood so unevenly. And if your subconscious can measure time with such precision, what else might it be sensing beneath awareness? What signals of danger, what instincts of survival, what rapid responses happen before thought? To find out, we must turn to the hidden codes of instinct, the ancient reflexes that still guide you in ways science has only begun to decipher. Deep within you lies a set of codes older than thought itself. Long before civilization, long before words, these reflexes were already guiding survival. They are written in the subconscious, waiting to act when danger is near. And here is our next mystery. The fight or flight reflex ignites before you know what is happening. A shadow moves, a sudden sound cracks, and your heart races, your breath shortens, your muscles prepare for action. The subconscious pulls the alarm without consulting you. Science knows the amygdala triggers this cascade, yet the enigma remains. Why does it sometimes respond to true danger, and sometimes to nothing at all? Why do harmless surprises provoke terror while real threats go unnoticed until too late? Another secret lies in the startle response. This second fact is that you flinch before your conscious mind registers the cause. A balloon pops, a door slams, and your body jerks before thought can form. Researchers can trace the neural arc from ear to spinal cord, but not the deeper puzzle. Why is the reaction sometimes so exaggerated? Why does one person tremble for minutes while another barely blinks? The subconscious script is ancient, but its variations remain unsolved. The third revelation comes from fear conditioning. Animals and humans alike can learn to fear through subconscious pairing, a tone with a shock, a place with a painful event. Even when you know logically that the threat is gone, your body still reacts. The subconscious keeps the memory alive. Science has mapped the circuits, but it cannot yet explain why some conditioned fears vanish quickly while others stay for a lifetime. Why does one child outgrow fear of the dark, while another carries it deep into adulthood? There is also the astonishing speed with which the subconscious detects threat. This fourth fact shows that your brain can sense danger faster than sight itself. Studies reveal that fearful expressions are processed in the brain's emotional centers before the visual cortex fully identifies them. You feel the fear before you see the face. Yet here too is mystery. How does the subconscious decide which signals to trust? Why does it sometimes raise false alarms, mistaking harmless expressions for danger? The rules guiding this rapid intuition are still unknown. Finally, consider parental instinct. This fifth secret is perhaps the most profound. Many caregivers respond to a baby's cry with immediate urgency long before they think. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, movement begins almost automatically. Evolution explains part of it, but the mystery remains. Why do some feel the pull so strongly while others feel detached? Why does the subconscious trigger fierce protection in some and quiet hesitation in others? Science can describe the hormones and circuits, but not the invisible difference in intensity from one person to another. These 5 mysteries of instinct show the subconscious as a guardian, reacting faster than thought, carrying memories of fear, raising alarms at the faintest signal. It is both protector and sometimes betrayer, keeping you safe yet also overwhelming you with panic when there is no need. Science maps the pathways but cannot explain the variation, the unpredictability of when instincts save and when they misfire. And if instincts can whisper so powerfully, shaping behavior before thought, what about the quieter voice we often call intuition, that feeling that tells you what choice to make without evidence, that sense of knowing without knowing why? To enter that realm is to uncover another set of mysteries where the subconscious does more than react, it guides. Sometimes, without reason or evidence, you simply know. A voice beneath thought whispers which path to take, which choice to make, and you follow, even when logic disagrees. This is intuition, and it belongs to the subconscious. And here lies our next mystery. Intuition is often the result of vast subconscious processing, patterns recognized without awareness. Chess masters, for example, can glance at a board and sense the right move in seconds. Their minds are not guessing. Their subconscious recalls thousands of patterns instantly. Yet science cannot fully explain why intuition sometimes proves brilliant and other times disastrously wrong. The subconscious knows more than you think, but not always what you need. This leads us to another remarkable fact. Experts in many fields rely on unconscious recall. Firefighters describe knowing to leave a building moments before collapse, without knowing why. Later analysis shows subtle cues, the shift of smoke, the sound of strain, that their subconscious noticed. Here lies the mystery. If the subconscious can gather such precise signals, why can't the conscious mind access them directly? Why must knowledge arrive as a vague feeling instead of a clear explanation? A third revelation comes from studies of thin slicing. People can make surprisingly accurate judgments about others from just seconds of observation. A teacher's effectiveness, a stranger's trustworthiness, a couple's relationship stability. The subconscious processes these micro-cues at lightning speed, while the conscious mind lags behind. But the puzzle remains. Why are some snap judgments so accurate and others hopelessly biased? Science has measured the phenomenon, but not the invisible filter that decides when intuition will guide you correctly and when it will mislead. Another secret of intuition lies in its emotional tone. Often described as a gut feeling, it emerges not as a thought but as a sensation. Tightness in the chest, warmth in the stomach, a shift in breath. This fourth fact shows that the subconscious communicates through the body, translating complex judgments into physical signals. Yet the mystery endures. Why do some people learn to trust these signals while others dismiss them? Why do certain cultures value intuition while others warn against it? The body speaks, but its language remains partly undeciphered. Finally, consider the role of experience. This fifth fact is that intuition grows sharper with practice. The more patterns the subconscious gathers, the more reliable its whispers become. A doctor with decades of experience may sense illness in a glance. A musician may feel when a note is wrong before hearing it clearly. But the riddle remains. Why do some people's intuitions improve steadily while others remain clouded? Science can show the brain's strengthening networks, but not why growth differs so widely between individuals. These 5 mysteries of intuition reveal a paradox. The subconscious carries knowledge vast and swift, offering answers before thought, yet it does not always explain itself. Sometimes it saves lives, sometimes it misleads, and science cannot yet predict when it will do either. We are left to navigate by whispers, trusting and doubting in equal measure. And if intuition can guide you about choices and people, what happens when the signals extend beyond words altogether, when you understand not through language but through tone, posture, and gesture? The subconscious listens to far more than spoken words, and in the next chapter we will discover how it reads communication without language, decoding meaning that science still struggles to explain. Long before words were spoken, humans communicated with posture, tone, and gesture. That ancient layer of meaning has never disappeared. It continues to flow beneath every conversation. The subconscious is its interpreter, receiving messages you rarely notice. And here is our next mystery. Your subconscious reads tone of voice instantly, often more powerfully than the words themselves. A single phrase can mean comfort or threat, depending on pitch and cadence. Science can measure changes in brain activity, but the enigma remains. Why does tone sometimes override meaning completely, leaving you shaken or soothed despite the actual words? Another hidden fact emerges in posture. Without thinking, you read the stance of another person, the tilt of shoulders, the openness of arms, the lean of the body. This second revelation shows that your subconscious judges dominance, confidence, or vulnerability in an instant. You may feel trust or suspicion before a word is spoken, yet the mystery endures. Why do these silent signals carry so much weight, and why do different cultures interpret them in such divergent ways? The subconscious understands, but science has not mapped the full grammar of the body. Then there is the power of eye contact. This third fact is that your subconscious interprets gaze more quickly than conscious analysis. A stare can feel threatening, a glance away can feel evasive, prolonged contact can feel intimate. Infants respond to eyes long before they understand language. But the unsolved puzzle remains: why does eye contact trigger such strong emotional responses, and why does comfort vary so widely between individuals? For some it brings connection, for others unbearable tension. Science observes the reactions, but the rules remain obscure. Another layer lies in prosody, the rhythm and melody of speech. This fourth secret reveals that your subconscious processes these patterns, even when you do not understand the words. A foreign language may still sound soothing or harsh, a lullaby calms across cultures, a chant unites a crowd. Researchers can identify brain regions tuned to prosody, but they cannot yet explain why certain patterns evoke universal emotion, while others divide. The mystery of why rhythm itself speaks so deeply remains unresolved. Finally, consider nonverbal mimicry. Without awareness, you mirror the gestures, postures, or speech rhythms of those around you. This fifth fact shows how your subconscious creates synchrony, building rapport invisibly. People who mirror each other tend to trust more, bond more, and cooperate more, but here too lies a puzzle. Why does mimicry flow naturally with some and fail with others? Why does your subconscious resist alignment in certain encounters, even when connection would be useful? Science measures the effects, but the decision-making of this hidden synchrony is still unknown. These 5 mysteries of language without words remind us that communication is far richer than conscious thought. You understand through tone, posture, gaze, rhythm, and mimicry long before you can analyze meaning. Science has charted the responses, but not the full code of why some signals resonate, why interpretations differ, why bonds form or break in silence. And if your subconscious can interpret others so fluently without words, what happens when it turns inward, when the signals it reads are not from strangers but from the image of yourself? The next mysteries lie in the mirror, where the subconscious shapes identity, esteem, and the silent voice that tells you who you are. Each time you look at your reflection, you believe you are seeing yourself clearly, yet beneath the surface of that image lies another presence, the subconscious mirror shaping how you feel about who you are. And here is our next mystery. Implicit self-esteem tests reveal feelings you may deny. With quick associations and reaction times, the subconscious shows hidden attitudes toward yourself, sometimes warmer, sometimes colder than what you admit aloud. Science can measure the discrepancy, but the enigma remains. Why does the subconscious hold one version of the self while the conscious mind insists on another? What determines which voice will prevail? This brings us to another hidden fact. Body image is often distorted by subconscious filters. Someone thin may feel heavy, someone strong may feel weak, not because of reality, but because of subconscious perception. This second revelation shows that your sense of your body is not always aligned with truth. Researchers can map brain regions involved in self-recognition, yet they cannot explain why the subconscious clings to distorted images, sometimes with painful persistence. Why do some people's mirrors lie louder than others? Then there is the inner critic, a voice many know all too well. This third fact is that the subconscious often speaks harshly, generating doubt and shame even in moments of success. The conscious mind may dismiss these thoughts, but they rise again, unbidden. Science can trace negative self-talk to memory networks and emotional centers, but the puzzle endures. Why do some subconscious voices nurture while others wound? Why does the same brain hold the potential for both comfort and cruelty? Childhood adds another layer. Our fourth secret here is that early experiences shape the subconscious self-image that lasts for decades. A child praised learns to carry confidence invisibly. A child shamed may grow into an adult haunted by silent echoes. Psychologists know that early attachment and feedback leave marks, yet the deeper mystery remains. Why do some rise resilient from harsh beginnings, while others carry scars for life? The subconscious remembers, but not always in predictable ways. And finally, there is self-sabotage. This fifth revelation shows that the subconscious can quietly oppose your goals, guiding you toward choices that undermine your own success. Fear of failure, learned helplessness, or unspoken beliefs may pull the strings. Science observes the patterns but cannot yet explain why the subconscious sometimes protects you by holding you back, even when the danger has passed. Why does it confuse safety with limitation? Why does it whisper "don't try" when the conscious mind longs to leap forward? These 5 mysteries of the inner mirror remind us that self-perception is never neutral. The subconscious measures, distorts, criticizes, preserves, and sometimes resists your conscious vision of yourself. Science can illuminate the effects but not the invisible reasons why some reflections empower and others imprison. And if the subconscious can so profoundly shape the way you see yourself, what about the forces it hides that you do not even realize you desire? Beyond the mirror lies the realm of unseen motivators, the drives and cravings that steer behavior, sometimes against reason, sometimes against your own declared wishes. Beneath every choice you make, beneath every ambition and hesitation, lies a network of drives you rarely notice. You may tell yourself that you act from reason, yet much of your behavior is steered by unseen motivators, forces the subconscious keeps hidden. And here is our next mystery. The subconscious pulls you toward pleasure even before you realize you want it. A sweet taste, a soft texture, a comforting sound, all are flagged as rewards in milliseconds. Scientists can trace dopamine signals rising before conscious desire, but the enigma remains: why does the subconscious favor some pleasures and ignore others, shaping appetites that reason cannot fully explain? This leads us to another fact, one of the most debated in psychology, Freud's idea that unconscious desires drive behavior. Though his theories were framed a century ago, modern research continues to show that impulses you deny or repress still influence you. People insist they act logically, yet hidden cravings direct their choices in relationships, careers, even creativity. But here lies the mystery. If desires are buried so deeply, how do they still steer the present? Science can observe traces in behavior, but it cannot yet uncover the exact pathways by which a forgotten wish becomes action. The third revelation comes from reward signals. Dopamine neurons in the brain predict rewards even before they arrive, creating anticipation that guides decisions. This is our next secret. Your subconscious prepares for outcomes you have not yet experienced, nudging you toward paths of potential gain. Yet researchers still puzzle over the inconsistency. Why does the subconscious sometimes overestimate, fueling addiction, while at other times it underestimates, letting opportunity slip by? The reward system is known, but its unpredictability remains unexplained. Anchored deep in this system is another fact. The subconscious calculates prediction errors, the gap between expected and actual reward. When something is better than predicted, the subconscious floods you with motivation. When worse, it withdraws. But the mystery endures. Why do some individuals remain motivated despite repeated disappointment, while others collapse after a single failure? Science has identified the signals, yet the resilience or fragility of motivation still escapes understanding. Finally, there is the role of hidden fear. This fifth secret shows that not all motivation is about seeking reward. Some is about avoiding pain. Many choices are made not to gain something, but to escape an imagined threat. You might avoid speaking up, not from logic, but from an old subconscious fear of rejection. Neuroscience confirms that fear circuits can steer action, but the unanswered question is why these circuits persist so strongly, even when the danger is gone. Why does the subconscious continue to act as if the past were still present? These 5 mysteries of unseen motivators reveal the hidden engines of human behavior. You are drawn by pleasure before you know it, steered by desires you deny, guided by dopamine's silent predictions, shifted by errors of expectation, and held back by ancient fears. Science maps the patterns but cannot explain why appetites differ, why some desires dominate while others fade, why motivation endures or collapses. And if hidden drives can shape the present so powerfully, what happens when memory itself begins to deceive, when the subconscious does not just recall but invents? To answer this, we must step into the fragile realm of memory illusions, where fact and fiction blur in ways science still cannot resolve. You trust your memory as if it were a faithful witness. You rely on it to tell you who you are, where you have been, and what you have lived. Yet memory is not a perfect record. It is a construction, constantly edited by the subconscious. And here is our next mystery, the Mandela effect, a phenomenon where groups of people vividly remember an event or detail that never occurred. From movie lines to logos to historical facts, entire crowds insist on the same false memory. Science labels it confabulation, but the enigma remains. Why do so many minds misremember in the same way? What hidden process allows the subconscious to align on an illusion? Another fact lies in the strange phenomenon of confabulation in split-brain patients. When one hemisphere acts without the other's awareness, the conscious side invents an explanation. The subconscious fills gaps with stories, presenting fiction as fact. This second revelation shows that memory is as much invention as recall. But here lies the puzzle. Why does the brain prefer a false story over admitting uncertainty? Science describes the mechanism, but the deeper motive, the subconscious need for coherence at any cost, remains unsolved. The third secret is the way the subconscious fills missing details in ordinary memory. You may recall a conversation but not the exact words, and your mind quietly inserts approximations. Most of the time, you never notice. This is our next fact. Memories are rebuilt, not replayed, each time they surface. Yet the mystery persists. Why do some reconstructions stay close to truth, while others drift into complete fabrication? Neuroscience knows recall is reconstructive, but not why distortion varies so greatly between people and moments. Another striking example comes from eyewitness testimony. This fourth fact is that memory can be altered by suggestion, creating false confidence in events that never happened. A single leading question can reshape recall. Courts struggle with this reality because the subconscious does not just invent, it defends the invention fiercely. The enigma here is why false memories carry the same emotional conviction as real ones. Science can observe brain activity that looks identical in both cases, but it cannot explain why certainty attaches equally to truth and error. Finally, there is the deliberate planting of false memories in experiments. Researchers have convinced people they were lost in childhood malls or met characters who never existed. This fifth revelation shows that the subconscious accepts suggestion and weaves it seamlessly into personal history. Yet the greatest mystery remains. Why does the subconscious sometimes resist suggestion and at other times embrace it completely? What hidden threshold decides whether a seed grows into conviction or fades into doubt? These 5 mysteries of memory illusions remind us that the subconscious does not simply record. It creates, it edits, inserts, erases, and sometimes invents entire chapters of your life story. Science identifies the phenomena, measures the brain signals, and demonstrates the effects. But it cannot answer why illusions spread collectively, why coherence matters more than accuracy, or why conviction clings equally to fact and fiction. And if the subconscious can alter memory so fluidly, imagine what it might create when free from facts altogether, when it drifts into daydreams, inventions, and moments of sudden creativity. To follow that path, we must turn to the shadowy workshop of imagination, where the subconscious builds solutions and visions science still struggles to understand. Ideas often arrive unannounced. A solution appears while you shower, a melody forms while you walk, a story emerges while you drift half asleep. These flashes of creativity rarely come from deliberate effort, they rise from the subconscious. And here is our next mystery, the incubation effect, where stepping away from a problem makes the solution emerge later on its own. Artists, scientists, and inventors alike describe insights striking after periods of rest. Science confirms that the subconscious continues working in the background, but the riddle remains: why does the mind solve some problems during rest and leave others untouched? This leads us to another remarkable fact. Many great breakthroughs were born in dreams or reveries. Kekulé's vision of the benzene ring as a snake biting its tail, Paul McCartney hearing the melody of Yesterday in sleep, countless scientists describing insights while half awake. This second revelation shows that creativity thrives when the conscious guard relaxes, yet the mystery persists. Why do such moments strike unpredictably? Science can track neural activity, but it cannot yet explain why one dream gifts a masterpiece while another dissolves into nonsense. A third secret of creativity lies in divergent thinking, the ability to connect unrelated ideas. The subconscious makes leaps, the conscious mind cannot, linking distant concepts in surprising ways. This is our next fact. Flashes of originality often emerge when subconscious associations override logical filters, yet the unresolved question remains: why do some minds generate endless connections while others remain bound by convention? Biology alone cannot explain the uneven distribution of creative fire. Another layer of mystery surrounds improvisation. Musicians and actors often describe entering a flow state where performance feels effortless, guided not by deliberate thought but by something deeper. This fourth fact shows the subconscious as a silent partner, taking over when skill and spontaneity merge. But science cannot fully explain why flow arises sometimes and resists at others. Why does the subconscious grant this freedom in one moment and deny it in another? The rhythm of access remains elusive. Finally, consider sudden inspiration in moments of crisis. A firefighter devises a rescue plan instantly, an engineer finds a last-second fix, an artist creates a line of brilliance under pressure. This fifth revelation shows that the subconscious can produce genius under stress. Yet here lies the enigma: why does pressure sharpen creativity for some and paralyze it for others? Science describes the role of adrenaline and focus, but the hidden key that unlocks brilliance in only certain minds remains unknown. These 5 mysteries of creativity reveal the subconscious as an unseen workshop, solving, linking, improvising, and inspiring from the shadows. Science observes its traces, measures brain networks, and maps associations, but cannot answer why genius appears when it does, why some receive visions in dreams while others sleep in silence, why pressure frees some and binds others. And if the subconscious can generate such flashes of creation, what else might it invent when thought turns inward? Beyond art and problem solving lies another frontier, the formation of identity itself, the quiet shaping of the story you tell about who you are. When you say "I am," you believe those words come from a solid core of self, yet the sense of identity you hold is woven as much by the subconscious as by conscious thought. Much of who you believe you are has been assembled silently, piece by piece, long before you noticed. And here is our next mystery. The subconscious stores implicit associations about identity that shape how you see yourself. Gender, culture, and role expectations sink in during childhood, guiding your sense of self. Science can measure these associations in milliseconds, but the enigma remains: why do some subconscious identities empower while others constrain? What hidden filter decides whether you embrace or resist them? This leads us to another subtle fact. Your subconscious creates continuity of self even as everything changes. Cells replace themselves, memories fade, beliefs evolve, yet you still feel like the same person. This second revelation shows the subconscious stitching a narrative that preserves the illusion of sameness. But the mystery lingers. Why does this thread hold so firmly for most, while in conditions like dissociation it unravels? Science cannot yet explain why some subconscious selves fracture, while others remain intact through every storm. The third secret is that the subconscious often adopts social masks. You may present different versions of yourself depending on context: confident at work, reserved with family, playful with friends. This is our next fact. Multiple selves coexist beneath awareness, selected automatically by situation, yet the unresolved question remains: why does one mask dominate over another? Why does the subconscious sometimes protect authenticity and sometimes bury it? The logic behind these silent switches is still obscure. Another hidden layer appears in decision-making. Many choices you claim as rational expressions of identity are guided by subconscious motives: wanting approval, avoiding shame, seeking belonging. This fourth fact reveals that the subconscious steers identity not only through memory and masks but also through silent goals. Yet the enigma persists. Why do these hidden motives differ so sharply among people? Why does one person crave recognition while another longs only for safety? Science observes the behavior, but the root of the variation remains unsolved. Finally, consider the subconscious role in self-esteem. This fifth revelation shows that feelings of worth rise and fall before you think about them, triggered by subtle cues: a compliment, a rejection, a glance. Your conscious mind may argue against these swings, but the subconscious already decided how you feel. The unresolved mystery is why some people stabilize quickly, while others spiral for days from a single comment. Science measures the brain regions, but not the deeper forces that make one identity fragile and another resilient. These 5 mysteries of subconscious identity remind us that the self you hold is less solid than it feels. It is shaped by hidden associations, maintained by silent narratives, altered by masks, steered by unseen motives, and bruised or strengthened by subconscious esteem. Science can trace each element, but it cannot yet explain why the patterns differ so deeply from person to person, why one identity grows firm while another cracks. And if identity itself is sculpted in the shadows, what happens when the subconscious binds 2 identities together, when it shapes not only who you are but how you bond with others? The next mysteries lie in the unseen ties of attachment, love, and trust, where the subconscious writes the rules of connection long before you understand them. Before you spoke your first word, before you remembered your first image, bonds were already forming in the silence of your subconscious. These attachments became the blueprint for how you would trust, how you would love, how you would seek comfort. And here is our next mystery. Early attachment styles formed in infancy continue to shape relationships decades later. A baby comforted consistently learns trust. A baby met with unpredictability learns vigilance. Science can describe the pattern, yet the enigma remains. Why do some children adapt and find resilience while others carry fragile bonds throughout their lives? This leads us to another subtle fact. The subconscious decides whom you feel drawn to long before you reason it out. Attraction often begins with unspoken cues, scent, voice, microexpression that bypass thought. This second revelation shows that you do not choose desire fully consciously. Your subconscious leans towards certain people without explanation. Researchers measure pheromones and symmetry, but the deeper puzzle endures. Why does one face ignite fascination while another passes unnoticed? Science has not yet decoded the hidden mathematics of attraction. A third secret lies in trust. Studies show that when someone offers you a sign of reliability, a smile, a gesture, an open gaze, your subconscious releases oxytocin, a chemical of bonding, often before you consciously decide to trust. This is our next fact. Your subconscious writes the script of cooperation. Yet here lies the unresolved question. Why does trust grow easily in some bonds and remain elusive in others? Why does betrayal scar one person for life while another heals quickly? The subconscious governs the process, but its hidden thresholds remain unclear. Another layer appears in long-term love. Couples who stay bonded for decades often mirror each other's rhythms of speech, gesture, even physiology. This fourth fact reveals the subconscious synchrony of intimacy, where two nervous systems adapt invisibly over time. Yet the mystery lingers. Why do some bonds deepen into harmony, while others collapse despite effort? Science can measure synchrony, but it cannot predict the fate of love. The subconscious dances, but its choreography is beyond full explanation. Finally, there is the haunting presence of loss. When someone dear is gone, the subconscious continues to expect them, the sound of footsteps, the outline of a face in a crowd. This fifth revelation shows that attachment does not vanish with absence. The subconscious keeps bonds alive beyond reason, yet the greatest mystery remains. Why does grief resolve in some hearts, while in others it lingers as if time had never passed? Science can track neural activity, but the persistence of longing defies easy answers. These 5 mysteries of hidden attachment remind us that connection is never fully chosen. It is guided by subconscious blueprints written early, steered by silent attraction, reinforced by invisible chemistry, deepened through synchrony, and preserved even through loss. Science observes the effects but cannot yet tell why bonds form, why they break, or why some endure beyond life itself. And if attachment binds us so tightly, what happens when the subconscious turns not toward another, but toward the deepest questions of existence, beyond bonds and memories? The subconscious also stirs with the mysteries of mortality, dreams of the infinite, and reflections that reason alone cannot settle. To enter that terrain is to face the final enigmas that live in the shadows of the mind. At the edge of awareness lies the most profound of all subconscious mysteries, the way the hidden mind relates to life and death. From the first breath to the last, the subconscious whispers about mortality in ways you rarely confront directly, and here is our next mystery. Dreams of death often appear long before illness or loss. Many describe symbolic visions, falling, darkness, or a departing train, before real events unfold. Science can record these patterns, but the enigma remains. Why does the subconscious weave such themes without conscious knowledge? Are they preparation, coincidence, or something deeper that the mind does not reveal? This brings us to another unsettling fact: near-death experiences. People who return from the brink often describe tunnels of light, feelings of peace, or visions of loved ones. This second revelation shows that in moments of crisis, the subconscious may generate vivid experiences that feel more real than waking life. Neuroscience suggests surges of brain activity, but the unanswered puzzle persists. Why are these visions so consistent across cultures and histories? Science can propose mechanisms, but it cannot explain the profound meaning they hold for those who live them. The third secret lies in the subconscious denial of mortality. Humans live as though time will stretch endlessly, even while knowing logically it will not. This is our next fact. The subconscious often shields you from constant awareness of death, allowing daily life to continue. Yet the mystery endures. Why does this denial crack in some minds, leading to fear and obsession, while in others it remains firm, giving peace. The protective silence of the subconscious has no single rule. Another profound layer appears in legacy and meaning. This fourth fact is that the subconscious seeks continuity through stories, children, art, or memory, pushing you to leave traces beyond your life. Anthropologists and neuroscientists alike see this drive, yet they cannot explain why it varies so greatly, why some devote their lives to legacy while others live content in the fleeting moment. The subconscious motive for meaning remains a puzzle science cannot resolve. And finally, we arrive at our last revelation, the one that completes this long journey. The subconscious itself may hold awareness beyond what consciousness can grasp. Mystics and meditators describe states of unity, timelessness, or dissolution into something larger. Science measures shifts in brainwaves, but the experience remains ineffable. This is our 101st mystery. The subconscious does not simply guide, protect, or distort. It may also connect you to dimensions of experience that science has only begun to glimpse. Why these states arise, what they signify, and whether they point to something beyond the brain or remain questions without final answers. These final 5 mysteries close the circle. The subconscious speaks in dreams of mortality, creates visions at the brink of death, shields you from despair, urges you toward legacy, and sometimes opens doors to the infinite. Science can measure fragments, propose explanations, and track activity, but it cannot explain the fullness of these experiences. And so we end where we began, in the presence of a hidden mind that moves before thought, remembers beyond recall, creates beyond reason, and connects beyond explanation. The subconscious remains both your oldest companion and your greatest enigma. It is the shadow beneath waking life, the dreamer beneath reason, the whisperer beneath the voice you call your own. You have now walked through 101 mysteries, each one a window into the hidden layers of your mind, and still the feeling lingers that the journey is not finished, because the subconscious is not a list of secrets to be counted, but a living presence that shapes every breath, every gesture, every dream. The facts may have been gathered, yet their meaning continues to ripple outward, and here is the subtle satisfaction. You can sense that something vast has been revealed, even if the final answers remain beyond reach. The first great realization is that the subconscious is not separate from you, it is you. Each mystery we explored, from memory illusions to hidden instincts, from invisible emotions to creativity in the shadows, belongs to the same mind that carries your name. Science can draw lines between conscious and subconscious, but the truth is fluid. The deeper you look, the more those lines blur, until you are left with a continuum of awareness, stretching from surface to depth. Why consciousness floats above while so much remains below is a question still unanswered, and perhaps unanswerable. Another reflection arises from the balance of protection and limitation. Throughout these mysteries, the subconscious acted both as guardian and as barrier. It remembers danger to keep you safe, yet sometimes traps you in fear. It shields you from constant awareness of mortality, yet also denies truths you might need to face. It gifts creativity and intuition, yet occasionally deceives with illusions. The paradox is inescapable. The subconscious is both ally and enigma. The satisfaction comes not from conquering it, but from recognizing its dual role, and the mystery endures. Why does the same hidden mind that saves also sometimes sabotage? You might notice, too, how much of identity itself is constructed by the subconscious. The story of who you are is not a fixed truth, but a narrative stitched together by hidden processes. From early attachment to inner criticism, from unspoken desires to social masks, the subconscious has been writing the script all along. And yet, the conscious mind insists on authorship, taking credit for what was already unfolding beneath. Why does the brain cling to this illusion of control? Why must the storyteller pretend to be the creator? Science offers partial answers, but the deeper motive, the need for coherence at the expense of truth, remains one of the grand unsolved puzzles. The journey through these mysteries also leaves you with a new sense of humility. For every explanation, another question appeared. For every fact, a shadow remained. Memory can be measured, but not fully trusted. Emotions can be observed, but not fully predicted. Creativity can be mapped, but not summoned at will. The subconscious reminds you that knowledge itself has edges, and that wonder begins where certainty ends. This humility is not defeat, it is the beginning of wisdom. And here we come to another reflection. Science and philosophy are not rivals, but companions in this terrain. The scientist measures signals in the brain, The philosopher asks what those signals mean for the human story. Together they reveal a picture of the subconscious not as a machine, but as a mystery woven into existence itself. Why does matter give rise to mind? Why does mind split into layers of awareness? Why does the hidden part of you sometimes feel wiser, sometimes more deceptive, than the self you call I? These are not only scientific puzzles, but existential ones. As you sit with these thoughts, you may notice how the tone of this journey has shifted. At first, each mystery arrived like a discovery, a secret revealed one by one. Now the mysteries begin to echo together, like notes merging into harmony. The satisfaction comes not only from the number, the 101, but from the resonance they create as a whole. You are not left with answers, but with a new way of seeing, that the subconscious is not a vault of hidden facts, but a living, shifting presence that holds as much beauty as confusion. And so this section offers not a new fact, but a new way of listening. The whisper beneath thought, the dream beneath reason, the shadow beneath light, all are invitations to humility, curiosity, and wonder. You have not reached the end of mystery, only a deeper entrance into it. In the next and final section, we will let the journey soften further, easing into a closing reflection that allows the mind to rest with what it does not yet know. For the subconscious does not demand answers, it thrives in questions. And perhaps the truest gift of these 101 mysteries is not knowledge, but peace with uncertainty. You have arrived at the end of the path, though in truth it does not feel like an ending. After all the mysteries, the 101 hidden threads of the subconscious, you are left not with a closed circle, but with a horizon that stretches further than sight. And perhaps this is its own quiet confirmation. You set out in search of secrets, and what you found was not a wall of answers, but an ocean of wonder. There is a certain satisfaction here, subtle but undeniable. You can feel it in the way the stories of memory, instinct, identity, and attachment now weave together. Each revelation seemed at first a separate note, but now they blend into a single melody. The subconscious as both guardian and trickster, both healer and deceiver, both scientist and poet. To have gathered them is already a form of completion. To recognize their mystery is to step into humility, and in this humility, the subconscious itself seems to smile, as if saying, "You have listened, and that is enough." The first great closing reflection is that mystery itself may be the point. Throughout this journey, each discovery came wrapped in uncertainty. Why does memory distort? Why does creativity strike in dreams? Why do instincts misfire? The answers were partial, the questions enduring. Yet this is the subtle truth. The subconscious thrives not in clarity, but in ambiguity. It does not operate in straight lines, but in spirals. It whispers not to conclude, but to invite. And so your satisfaction is not only in what you now know, but in how you now listen. Another reflection comes in the rhythm of opposites. The subconscious protects yet imprisons, reveals yet conceals, inspires yet deceives. This paradox is not a flaw, but its nature. Just as night and day shape one another, so too do the hidden and the seen. Your conscious mind thrives on logic, your subconscious thrives on intuition. Each needs the other. Why they are divided remains unknown, but their partnership is undeniable. And here lies the deeper mystery. Perhaps the division itself is what allows you to be human, stretched between certainty and doubt, reason and dream. There is also the mystery of universality. Many of the facts you encountered, déjà vu, intuition, fear, creativity, are shared across cultures and histories. A child in one corner of the world dreams as a child does in another. A parent's instinct, a lover's attachment, a seeker's intuition, these belong to all humanity. And yet the variations remain. Why one mind heals quickly, while another clings to pain. Why one dream creates art while another dissolves. Why one subconscious nurtures trust while another resists it. Science measures the similarities, but the differences remain unsolved. A deeper satisfaction arises when you notice how these mysteries mirror life itself. Just as the subconscious remembers selectively, so too does history. Just as it protects and deceives, so too do societies. Just as it invents and distorts, so too does storytelling. To explore the hidden mind is to glimpse a reflection of the larger human condition. The mystery is not locked in the brain alone. It breathes in every choice, every relationship, every culture. Science may analyze, but the meaning of it belongs to philosophy, art, and lived experience. And here is another subtle gift of this journey, the realization that you can never be fully known, even to yourself. The subconscious ensures that parts of you will remain hidden, even as you search. Far from being a failure, this may be a mercy. Total self-transparency might leave no room for wonder, no room for growth. The subconscious, by holding secrets, keeps you alive, not only biologically but existentially, always moving, always curious, always becoming. You might ask, after 101 mysteries, what is left to carry? The answer is simple and profound. Carry the questions. Let them accompany you as companions rather than burdens. Let déjà vu remind you of the strangeness of perception. Let intuition whisper without demanding proof. Let dreams astonish you without explanation. Let attachment remind you of the depth of love. These mysteries do not need resolution to be meaningful. They need only your willingness to pause, to feel, to reflect. And perhaps this is the greatest satisfaction of all, that you can stand at the edge of the subconscious, gaze into its vastness, and not demand mastery. To listen is enough. To wonder is enough. To walk through life knowing that part of you will always remain beyond reach is not defeat, it is intimacy with mystery itself. So this final section closes not with a final fact, but with an invitation to live in dialogue with your subconscious, to let it guide sometimes, to question sometimes, to marvel always. You have reached the end of this collection, but not the end of mystery. That end does not exist. The mind you carry, conscious and subconscious, is a living paradox, familiar and unknowable, intimate and infinite. And perhaps that is the truest secret of all. Now the journey slows. The 101 mysteries have been gathered, the reflections woven, and yet the mind continues to hum softly with their echoes. It is time to let that hum quiet itself, to let the pace ease, to let the rhythm stretch into stillness. You can feel the weight of knowledge, not heavy like a burden, but gentle, like a blanket settling around you. Each idea, each secret of the subconscious drifts now into the background. They no longer need to be held tightly. They are there, waiting, but no longer pressing. You can rest in the assurance that you have touched them, that you have listened, and that nothing more is required tonight. The subconscious remains with you, silent and watchful. It will continue to guide your steps, to weave your dreams, to store your memories, even while you release the effort of thought. There is nothing you must do for it. It works quietly, as it always has, without demand, without insistence. You may simply allow it to be. Notice how the words themselves begin to slow, the spaces grow wider, the sentences soften, stretching out, dissolving gently, like ripples fading on a still lake. Each pause becomes a place to rest, a place where thought can loosen, where the body can unclench, where time can blur at its edges. And now you arrive at quiet. The mysteries have been spoken, the questions remain, but they no longer press for answers. They can wait. You can wait. There is only this moment, this calm, this breath. The journey is complete, and still it continues, silently, in the hidden depths of your mind.